course, and one of the original members of the Dragon Ship before we turned it to the Sons of Thor, and a mentor of mine as well. So I wanted to make sure I did the introductions.
Nice to meet you.
But wouldn't you say it's been one-sided for a while, though, Wraith? Like, it's been, happy wife, happy life has been the narrative kind of thing. Like,
in that respect, yes, but that's because men have allowed that.
That's what I have said. I said the reason why we're here is because men have allowed it to get to this point.
I mean, here's the thing. I hear this stuff about a man is supposed to build a kingdom and find a queen. Okay. All through history, kingdoms come and kingdoms go.
Yeah.
And, and this is one of the things I tell guys, you have to be able to walk away from things, not just women, but you have to be able to walk away from, the material things that you create.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, they hold you in this place where you're stuck, and being stuck there creates that anxiety, that depression, and those kind of things. And you're allowing something in the material world to control the psychological and the spiritual world for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons guys, do the things that they do and end things, because they wrap all their value in the material things that they can provide. And when they feel like they've lost everything, not just a woman, but everything.
Well, they feel like they lost their identity,
right.
And it is, I can understand what guys are saying here, right? When they're seeing this, they're looking at the reports, they're seeing like the statistics. They hear that 70 to 80% of women are the ones that are initiating the divorces. They see how women are saying they're just going in, they're getting the bag. They see that even after the divorce, the children they're not able to see their children as often, even though they may have 50-50 custody. It's like they're jumping through hoops and having to placate to the mom still just to get their visitations right. It is just that they're it's not worth it. Although they still want children, they're like, that risk is just not worth it. And I don't blame them for saying or trying to find another means to solve this problem. And
I mean, look at it from a different direction. What happens if, say this is all successful, and they go get their robo wife, they go get they have a child.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the health, the mental health for that child is having two parents.
Yeah.
And what does a woman teach a child?
Well, it teaches them the nurturing side of things.
Right. And can a machine do that? That would be something that we'll see in the future.
I mean, it would have to be programmed, right? It would have to be able to know to pick up certain cues, but it wouldn't be natural.
No.
Yeah.
And so therefore, how do you raise a child to nurture when everything that they're taught from a nurturing standpoint is an imitation of nurturing?
We've been doing this for quite a while. Matter of fact, not only have we been doing this for a while, but we've seen the onset. I'll give you an example. You ever have a generation of iPad kids growing up where the parent leaves the room, they put a movie on, and they just fucking leave? These people will just raise children just like this. So it's not a far cry or a far stretch to say that tech is already raising our kids already. I think that if we can nip this in the bud, here's my two solutions real quick. I'm just going to head right to it and nip the drag in the bud. So if we can just have a campaign of propaganda to incentivize marriages, I think that this is a good start. Now, the conversation really gets kind of muddy if we try to figure out how to do this. That's the problem that I've never reconciled or came up with. If we can come up with a way to have propaganda, which propaganda goes the other way. Propaganda has made the transformer community skyrocket and believe people with this mental delusion to say, okay, this is normal. I identify as a dragon or cat, whatever that is. Well, propaganda can go the other way. Now, if we take this and couple this with incentivization of marriage by not making marriage a weaponization of a construct that's used against men, I think that we are onto a solution. I think that that's the pathway forward right there.
And I agree, but like you said, how do we get there from here?
That's the question. Yeah,
you know, because there's no financial incentive.
Well, you also have to incentivize the men to want to, right? Like you have to. I mean, in a way, you're almost having to sell them hope.
But that's the thing. Propaganda. Women are easily propagandized. I'm going to sound sexist as hell right here. Women are more propagandized and easily more propagandized than men are. We can look at the Garden of Eden. Who was propagandized first? So what followed suit was the men. So I think that if we can propagandize women, because women are 80% of consumerist culture, it's because they're easily propagandized. If we can have this and create a national campaign of propaganda, like the CCP does this, every other culture does this outside of the U.S., why can't we do this for a good purpose? We do this for nefarious purposes already, but just add a touch of incentivization behind it and incentivize men to say that, or women to say, hey, we're not going to weaponize marriage anymore. We're going to turn this into something good that men can actually buy into, instead of saying you're going to take a pill that's going to kill you like cyanide. Way better.
But you've got to take it from the standpoint of how do you incentivize
like, how do you get them to want to relinquish their power? That's really what it is.
That's the question. Yes.
But I mean, in a sense, do they really have power?
Well, they have the illusion of, they have as much power as we give them.
Yeah, it's an illusion. It's illusory. Yeah.
But that would take men being willing to tell women
no.
Be willing to put their foot down and willing to take the L for saying no too, though. Like it's not just telling them no, it's following through with the no.
I told you 5 years ago that the problem with men is thirst.
Yep. I remember that.
You got to be able to walk away from vijayjay. If you can say no to that, you develop the strength that no kryptonite can overcome. Like, it's the best superpower ever. I swear it is.
And you're right, because everything, I think that every fix in all this starts with the individual. So if men want to see a better outcome, men need to fix themselves first and acknowledge their weaknesses. And that starts with having a good, strong base and outline. And I started doing this, and I created this called it's the masculine course correction, right? And I would say, starting with God and your frame, repent, pray, like I say, Proverbs a day keeps the bullshit away. Do your readings, but then your money, your provisions, do a zero-based budget, kill consumer debt, build 1K emergency fund, like for 3 to 6 months, track that savings rate weekly. This is all things that help them before they even get to ready for marriage. Because I think a lot of guys are not prepared when they get married. They're still trying to get to this ready, like the level to where they could actually be able to financially afford or mentally or even have their frame established. They don't even know what they are yet or what they want yet. I call it game, but it's social acuity, cold hellos, firm handshakes, using eye contact, that's part of presence, frame and present standards, speak last, set boundaries, say clean nose, grooming, posture, purposeful walk, control your micro expressions, iron fingers, handshakes, these are just some things that guys could be working on themselves, because they can't fix women. We can't fix women, but all we can do is encourage women, right? So get your body fat, below 18%. I mean, you don't have to be an athlete, but you want to be down below 18%. That means you're healthy, right? That means that you may not have abs, but you are definitely healthy within a good body range. Marte, would you agree with that? 18% max?
I would agree with it. So here's the reason why I would agree with that. And it isn't for cosmetic reasons, by the way.
No, it's
the
not.
reason why I would agree with this is because if somebody breaks in your house, you have to be able to defend this. These are things that are the staple of any relationship. For a woman to feel secure and safe with me, to me, this is like just the beginning. If you don't have the basics, you can't build on anything else. Cosmetics should be the last thing that you're focused on because duty and purpose come first. And then love, believe it or not, in my estimation, love comes last because love's very conditional. I can like somebody on Tuesday and then not love them on Wednesday. But here's the problem, though. If we base things off of conditional things instead of using discipline and suffering with everything that's masculine, I think we've lost the plot. The whole structure of masculinity and the tenets of having something traditional is because we're able to preserve this. This is through fitness, through our ability to make our environment safe around us. Matt, by the way, I forgot the red hat. I forgot what your name is.
Ray.
Pleasure to meet you. If we were in a cabin and we were with our women and there was something that apocalypse scenario, the women are going to judge us by our ability to keep them safe, protected. I think love would be in the backfield of all this because survival, preservation of all this is in the forefront. If you can't maintain this, it's not about the abs or anything like this. This is about stopping an intruder. This is about feeling secure and her feeling like, oh, he has a sense of discipline to where nobody can make him cave, not even a woman outside the relationship, and he's not going to fall prey to his desires and lustful tendencies. That's
but
important.
Also they say that does show love. Wouldn't you say that, Wraith, by defending her, being able to be physically capable to protect her and make
that is love. But the other love is the love that I'm talking about. The conditional part was like the fleeting part. That's what we've been bought into. That we should leave with that. Yeah.
Well, but see that comes back down to beliefs and values.
Yes.
Okay. And that's one of the problems in our society today is we have relative values. You know, not only does the church practice relativism, politicians practice relativism, and we have incorporated that into our everyday lives. Okay, if you have the values like honor, integrity, honesty, those aren't relative values. You can't say, well, I'm going to tell this guy the truth, but I'm going to lie to everyone else.
Yeah.
And one of the problems today is the reason we've lost patriotism in this country is we've lost values in this country. We've made them all relative to what I need at this moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And most men don't think beyond, the next lay when they're looking at women. And most men don't think about anything beyond the next fun when they're looking at the rest of their life. There's no understanding of challenge, sorrow, and working through life to accomplish. It should be given to me. We've created a society of, entitlement, I guess is the best word to use.
I think it is entitlement. And both men and women feel entitled.
Well, women feel entitled to all the resources, and men feel entitled to all the vagina.
Yeah, no, really, and it's sad because they're both delusional.
Right.
Number 7, and right there, I actually put this down there because this is something that you recently have talked to me about. The journaling. You've told me to journal, jot stuff down when I was going with Thor, with the Thor situation. Before he passed, and 10 minutes a day journaling, name the emotion, belief, or whatever, choose a response, practice cognitive reframes. That has helped me through a lot after Thor passed. And like from my book, Presence, slow cadence, lower your volume, pause, be calm, clear, congruent in conflict, right? And this is one that guys really need to realize. This is our number one superpower, is problem solving. Problem solve for every complaint, right? 3 options, pick one, by the day's end and execute it. A lot of people talk about solutions, but they don't ever really follow through with that execution. I think when people say that they're wanting to get back in shape, here's another great example. When I was a personal trainer, I would have people hit me up like, yo, I want to sign up. They will sign up in January. By February, half of them already quit. They're no longer even going to the gym. So their execution, yeah, they signed up, they started, but they didn't follow through. They quit before they even get anywhere. And that's where a lot of times we as men, we fail. We start something, but we don't see it to the end. We're not getting the results that we want quick enough, or we get bored, or we get distracted. We can't allow ourselves to be distracted, or we're not going to finish problem solving. Prosperity, weekly net worth updates, monthly skill upgrades. And prosperity is not just talking about finances. You can be prosperous in your relationships, prosperous in your network, prosperous within your friend group, prosperous with your children. Like you're growing with your children. There's a lot more of the prosperity than just financial gain. And then, wrong one. There we go. I already said prosperity. Okay. Power via service. Mentor young men, or be mentored. Find someone to mentor you, right? And, for 90 days, model that standard. Get accountability. Enlist an accountability partner. I don't know how many times I tell you guys that accountability partners are the best thing ever, because they are there for your best interest. You're having them hold you accountable and hold you to a standard that you want them to hold you to, that you want to meet. Passion and perspicacity. Schedule a creative legacy block per week. Read one book per month. I would recommend reading any of the books from the Dominant Masculine Presence series. You can get them on the website. Wraith has 2 of them up there. Both of them are great. Vice eliminations, 90-day cleanse, right? No porn, no masturbation, no alcohol, no drugs, no, nothing that's going to alter your mind. There's too many young guys that are, they don't have their hormone levels balanced because they're on all these different antidepressants or all these different narcotics. They're not able to think with clear mind. They're acting rather emotionally. You need to be level-minded, level-headed, so you can make good decisions. Phone and media discipline. This is something I know I got to practice better at, but a lot of people are on their phone more than an hour a day. Social media, they're surfing, they're scrolling, they're doom scrolling, right? You got to cut that back. Go out there and touch grass. Go out there and interact with people. Go work out. Don't be on social media doom scrolling. And then, have a work and provision plan. Yes, you got a career, but what is your target goal? What are you trying to do? What is your 12-week goal? What is your, what are you trying to get to? Are you trying to move forward? Are you trying to move up? Because if you're going to have a family, if you want a family, you're going to need to be able to provide. You need to be able to acquire more resources when they're necessary. Lastly, lead your household. But before you could lead your household, you need to write a family vision and household standards. Right? This is what because you are the men. Before you even have a family, you should say, hey, this is what I expect this is what I want my family to do. This is what I expect from my wife and my kids. Right? And when you have that family, weekly family rhythms, like family council, like Sunday evening, make sure you have date night, schedule date night with your wife regularly. Fatherhood, 10-minute, daily 10 minutes one-on-one with each kid. It's important to have that one-on-one with each child. I mean, I did that with my son. He always had my time, but I split it up between him and his sister. And then brotherhood. This is important. Form a shield team. 4 men, 4 buddies, meet weekly, right? Talk to each other about your wins, your losses. This is another way of having that accountability group. Hey, man, I'm struggling with this. If Marte and Wraith were my accountability group, I'd be like, yo, guys, I'm really struggling with this right now. I don't want to go down this road, and I just need you guys, need to let you guys know. So if you see me start going left, please kick me in the gear. Remind me, not to go down that path, right? That's important. Iron sharpens iron. It's not just a saying. No, it really does. And church and community, right? Join a Bible preaching church. If you are one of faith, serve where needed. Build a men's team, do father and son events. Like, this is something important. This is how we can change the future of things slowly. It's not going to be overnight. I don't think it's going to happen immediately. But here's some scriptures for backbone, the verses to stand on. 1 Timothy, provide to your household. Proverbs, self-control, right? Titus, young men, sober-minded, sound speech. Ephesians, husbands, how to love their wives and respect them. Peter, honor your wife, prayer unhindered. Ephesians, again, fathers, bringing children up in discipline and instruction. Proverbs, train up your child. Proverbs, for iron sharpening iron. Ecclesiastes, two are better than one, a cord of 3 strands, right? Work heartily for the Lord. And Joshua, as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. Now, if you're not a Christian, that's fine. You can still practice these principles, because I told you, if you don't want to believe in faith, you can just use the Bible as best practices, and best practices will say, hey, this is the best way you can live your life to get the best results. So, gentlemen, that's my list of things I think guys could do. Start incorporating now before they even get married, because that would put them in the best position when they are ready to, settle down with somebody. Because I think by establishing these things, that's going to help them like vet out a lot of uneligible women. Wouldn't you agree?
I think we're having a massive problem that we're kind of overlooking here. I understand the recommendation, and what we're saying here is you're talking about presenting resentment, because when you have a man that gives you his word, like let's say that Glenn gives me, let's say $2,000, and I keep telling him, I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. Resentment's going to grow, because that's like our word. If we tell our wife we're going to do something and we're not firm, fair, and consistent, it's literally the same thing, because she's paying me, I'm paying her an expectation that she's never going to see. So to me, here's the big crux of the argument is we have a big majority in America who are single moms who are basically winning marriages at a rate of 80%, winning custody battles and everything else. These women are raising these men. Do you think that these women are teaching them these constructs? I don't know if they're mapping on manhood to these men. Yeah. And the problem with this is I think women are kind of shooting themselves in the foot. I'm not blaming just solely one sex here, even though it sounds like it. But these are the men that you're raising for other women to date, and that you're going to say that you don't like, that aren't consistent, fair, or firm. That's a big problem. So if we can address this too by changing our laws, things like this, and incentivizing culture to have a marriage culture, I think that that's a good start. But like I said in the previous conversation, the how-to is going to be a tough conversation to have. So
I think the how-to always starts with the individual. Like it has to start with me. It has to start with you, right? Because we can't change the world. We can't change the women, but we can change who we allow and what we allow in our lives. And by establishing better standards for ourselves to meet, right? And knowing the work that we have to put in to get there, we're not going to be so easily discard that. I think that when you have to work for something and you build it up, you're more likely to preserve it.
I think we actually have to get out and do something instead of sit here and complain. Yeah. The problem with this is I'll ask this question to everybody out there. If anybody ever sees this video, I'm not talking to you two men, but the men who I'm talking to, who I'm talking about. Why am I in the trenches fighting by myself, debating people that are running for senator, lawyers, attorneys, professors, things like this, on just this logic to create a mode of entertainment to fight this? I think that I shouldn't be the lone person in the trenches besides a few others. The trenches are empty. We need more men out here fighting for this and creating means of entertainment, other things. And because I'm telling you, debate is something that's in Congress halls and politics all the time. And politics changes laws when it comes to marital rights and things like this. If we don't have men pushing back against this, all we're doing is having allowance in a death by 1,000 cuts. This is how marriage fails. She doesn't, sleep with you one night and you're like, oh, that was nothing. But 56 times in a year to where you barely get sex at all, you've allowed this to happen and you've never raised up and addressed this by saying no and put your foot down. We're doing this literally in America because we don't have men in the trenches to say no. If we have men that are not afraid to lose the JJ because they say no, you'd be surprised how many women would stick around. But because we fall prey to this and we cave to this, we're putting in women in leadership roles and letting them win marriages and loss and all this other stuff. It's just crazy. Men need to be able to say no and put their foot down. That's the first part of the fight. If we can do that, then that's great.
Well, and we also have to quit relinquishing our power in the sense that we allow 1% of the men to set the tone for what is acceptable with women. Yeah. And we have to stop doing that. If 99% of the men weren't thirsty and the 1% of the men couldn't go through all the women the way they do now. I mean, and when Glenn was talking about, pre-planning what life you want, one of the things I would say is you have to pre-plan those failures too. Mm-hmm. What happens if this happens? You have to think through those processes. It's like we created, this fairy tale or Disney version of what life's supposed to be in marriage and all that stuff. And, if you've ever been married, that's not reality. It's a part of it, but it's not the total reality of marriage. It's not the total reality of any relationship. I mean, even my relationship with other men, like Glenn and I, we disagree on things, but we talk about it. We say, okay, what's acceptable for both of us on this? And sometimes it's to agree to disagree, but it's acceptable. Now, can you do that in your marriage? You can agree to disagree, but you still have to set the standard that someone makes the decision, because you're talking about a living entity, the marriage. This has to either grow or fail. Someone has to make a decision. Well, it's up to the men to do that.
I would actually be more clear. Let me be direct. I think that the man should be the majority decision. And I think when it comes to the last choice, it should be man. Matter of fact, we all know this. When they called your parents home back in the day, what did the telemarketer say? Can I speak to the decision maker of the household? Who were they talking to? They weren't they weren't talking to the wife. The only way they talked to the wife is because if she was the first one to pick the phone up, but she said, here, honey, you handle this problem. So when it comes down to problems, it boils down to the man to take care of it. Because let's say that the woman makes the decision, but the house is foreclosed. Well, when News Channel 5 comes and blames somebody and puts the microphone in somebody's face, is she putting it in front of the woman's face? Because we shoulder the responsibility. We should have the authority to mirror this, but we have a problem with this. We don't have authority with the responsibility to mirror this. That's why I think that men who are responsible, not just any man can be the decision maker. If we're firm, fair, and consistent and responsible decision makers, it should be the man. Because we're going to take the blame regardless in any relationship. This is societally known.
No, I agree. And I was trying to say that in a way that it was more palatable, I guess. And more palatable for young men.
I'm not going to be palatable, but go. I'm not that guy.
They're failing, And
Well, I think it's not just that they're failing. And I don't think it's that they're just like too afraid to lose vagina. I think there's a point when guys have children and they're married and they have kids. They don't want to be separated from their kids. And that's the other thing. They're afraid that, like, if I rock the boat here, if I keep on pushing her back, telling her no, she's going to take my kids from me. And I think that's the bigger problem. And guys understand, they need to realize, unfortunately, you were better off letting her take them and standing on your principles than you are conceding your principles and your morals and letting her win. Because then if you can't stand for that, then when are you going to ever stand for them?
I think one of the problems is men don't understand they're always without their kids most of the time anyway, because they're out of the house earning money. They're traveling to make a better life. So this concept of, the father that's always there.
Well, it's not true. But I think it's the father that's always still coming home at night. That's what men want to be. Men want to be the dad that still comes home every night, and he could go up to their room and still tuck them in, or I think they still they don't want to lose that access.
Well, but sometimes you don't come home. You and I both served in the military.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you're gone for long periods of time. And are you attracting a woman, or are you marrying a woman that understands the commitment that you've made and honors that commitment that you've made?
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I've been happy to have experienced that with every one of my marriages. And that doesn't mean that there's not problems when you come home and you're readjusting and all that stuff, because you do have to, when you're gone for long periods of time, you do have to give some decision power and stuff over to your wife. But you hope that you've tempered the relationship and tempered her understanding of your wants and needs for the family, that she does the right thing. And for the most part, my wives have done that, I always have to clarify this. I've been married 3 times. I've never been.
Yeah. He's not a polygynist.
I was trying not to say something. I was just listening. I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna let you talk, man. Go ahead, man. Oh man.
No, so actually, it's crazy. Two of his race wives passed away, through
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that. That changes things entirely.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of them was because of divorce.
On its face, right? How that sounds. Right.
Yeah, I do understand it. That's why I always.
That's why you had to clarify.
Yeah, please clarify, because it's like L men if you say this and don't clarify this.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been honored, by God and by the women that I married. That those relationships lasted until death, and that they honored, the commitments and stuff that I had made to them and to other people. And that's what you need to look for in your relationship. A woman that supports you and honors your commitments as well as you do.
It's hard to find. In one reason why is this is a very nuanced subject that we're on. The reason why I'm saying it's nuanced is because we have boss girl culture. So how I'm going to tie this in and how this makes sense is if you have a woman who's the man of the house and she's running shit because she's a girl boss, this is a problem. We're now having an inversion of culture where we're now making the man the stay-at-home wife. We're literally telling men, we're promoting this. The problem is, and this is the thing that debunks all of this, what happens when the breadwinner gets pregnant? Oh, shit, this is bad. You see how bad this is? Because now we're creating an inversion and we don't want this. So now we have women growing up to be the future men that they want to be with. And then we have women, it's just an inversion. It's just backwards. I think that we can nip this in the bud if we have preservation of culture, preservation of traditional relationships, and just tradition. Period. I think one thing that's destroying this is we have a lot of immigrants coming in and warping our culture. They're coming in and we're basically falling prey to this. We're flowing up Mexican flags in California, burning the U.S. flag. We're anti-patriot. The white op is a psyop. It doesn't exist, but we're teaching white people to hate each other themselves. This makes no sense. So now we're teaching men to hate themselves by proxy. To me, I think that we need to stop this inversion wherever we see this. Like you said, if we have a culture of men that say no and don't put vagina before culture, rational reasoning, I think we have a start somewhere, but you can't be afraid to walk away from a relationship. If we start doing this, then we're onto something maybe. Integrity is important.
Well, integrity is really important. I think that's the one thing that men we're seeing lacks today, that their integrity is very, it blows with the wind.
Well, that's what yourself. When I start working with guys, I did this whole values exercise.
Yes.
And, if I would have to say the common values that most men have, okay, are family, money, and relationships. Those aren't male values.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying you can't have those as, your substructure values, but when those are your primary values, your view of understanding of adulthood, first off, then manhood, and then relationships is all skewed by those 3 things.
Yeah.
And when I talk about values, how do you develop your values? Did you develop them because of the role models that you had, and that's how you usually do it? But were there positive role models that give you masculine values, or were there role models that give you,
feminine values?
Feminine values.
Yeah.
What does a woman want? She wants security. That's money.
Mm-hmm.
She wants children in the back of her mind, whether she realizes it or not. That's family.
Yeah.
In relationships, a man doesn't worry about a relationship if he stewards it.
I wouldn't say money is security. Here's why. I'm going to push back a little bit on this, because if you're saying that it's not a construct, which isn't a construct, it's also material reality, which is money in the form of paper. If you say it's this and it fluctuates, then you just make security conditional. That's the thing that I would warn against. So I think I would tread lightly when it comes to this.
I think the passage you're trying to say is like when they say it's problem solving, it's your ability to acquire resources. Like, that would be the security. He is
but the security is just a byproduct of security. It's not security itself. I think your consistent
women
behavior is security.
But I use it that way because of this. If you watch any of these shows, or if you ask a woman, what are you looking for in a man? First thing they say is, I want a man that makes 6 figures.
That's materialism. That basically backs my whole point and basically proves my whole point. It's like women away from this.
But he's actually pointing out to why they're saying that. Now, go ahead, Ray, because you're about to say why they're going to that.
Well, the point being that if you look at, as money as being a value, all right, then there's a couple of things that are happening. First off, you're always looking from a point of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're always looking at thinking that something else is going to solve the problem. Money doesn't solve problems. It creates a better standard of living, but it's not a problem solver in the sense that everything goes away. All your problems go away because you make, $1 million a year. They don't.
You just exchange
they
problems
grow,
for
they become different.
problems. You just exchange problems.
That's why I called it a byproduct. Yeah. The reason why I say it's a byproduct is because the Amish community has entered the chat. If we look at different examples, I can point to more examples besides the Amish community where they're not using materialism to drive their culture of security. I think that we can look outside the U.S. for many other plethora of examples where people are happy. But if you notice this, where they're not looking at money and materialism to lead the relationship, you're looking at more traditional values. You're looking at more of a structure where there's like a hierarchical role of a patriarchal structure within a home. You're looking at marriages where the marriage represents the church. Things like this are way more important. I think that money is probably a byproduct of this, but I certainly do agree with this. But I think if we can start propaganda,
I think money is the extension or the manifestation of problem solving, acquiring resources, being competent.
It's a tool.
Yeah,
it's a tool. Yes,
I think they see it as they see why they want money, because money means this man is capable of being able to acquire more than necessary, that he has a plethora of resources that they're never going to be without. That's where they feel safe at. They feel, I'm never going to have to starve. I'm never going to go without, so I think that's where they get security from.
Well, here's the thing, though. Anything material can be secure because it's protected, but women are turning themselves into material possessions because he has a boat. Now, all of a sudden, I'm owned by this guy. That's a bad thing. That's actually less secure because now you are more conditional than anything else and any other woman he has, because now you're expendable, more expendable than anything else, because we're driving away from values. I think one of the things that we need to go to is saying that, hey, propaganda, and I agree with you, but the problem with this is the well gets tainted with the poison of propaganda. Okay, when you take money and you have a ideology that money is great for security, but then you mix it with propaganda where we have an unrealistic standard. He has to make 6 figures, which is like how much of the population? Now all of a sudden we have less women wanting relationships, less wanting to stay because they have these unrealistic expectations of 6 foot tall, which is only 12% population.
You have to look at it from contextual, it's money here, but in maybe some coast off of Africa, the security is the guy with the best boat that could go get all the fish, right? That would be the security. So it will change, or depending on where you're what is the most important thing, or the most resource, capability. That's what it is. It's not like money is in America. It's finances. It's financial freedom is what provides security. I don't have to go without. We will always have what we need. But in like the coast off of Africa, it's I got the biggest boat and I could bring in the most fish when I go out fishing. That means I could take that resource and trade and get whatever we need. It's a that's where they see the security.
Yeah, but I think we're going away from that.
But
go ahead. I'll let you talk. Go ahead.
On the thing that the test that I give these guys is success, money, financial freedom. All those choices are there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're right. Because of the materialistic world we live in, money, they don't look at success. They don't look at financial freedom. They look at money. So it's singularly in our society, in the U.S., money is a value. It's not, and there are things on this thing. There are things on this sheet that we do that aren't values. They're, they're social or economic constructs, but they're there for a reason.
Their utility.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this whole topic, but here's my problem with this whole situation is that what Glenn said was the man that catches the most fish, the most this and that. The problem is we're leading with the most. I think that men that can fish are good because here's the problem. If you have Christian communities like the Orthodox Christian communities, Orthodox, maybe Amish people, things like this, they're not chasing the most. We're not trying to chase the most. If you can survive and you can make it, here's an example of this. If we're talking about the birth rate crisis, a lot of women that are making like 30 and on up are saving kids because they're putting career before marriage. This is money, right? They're saying because I can't afford kids. Well, why are poor people having the most kids? This proves the whole point wrong. It's like, so if we think about this, I think that we need to go back to traditional Christian ethics and values. I think that money should be a result of this, but not leading this. Yeah.
I would actually say that it does support Christian traditional values. Titus, says, you need to leave an inheritance for your children's children, or a man that doesn't provide for his family, he is worse than a non-believer. So
right, but it doesn't say most though. If you can fish, it's good, but you don't need to be the best fisherman in the world, is what I'm saying.
An inheritance doesn't have to be,
and it's not financially, but I'm just saying it's you're passing them down something that is going to benefit them,
and that's why I go back to young men. And old men now, in their 40s and 50s, need to start.
Wait a minute, I'm old?
Well, you're getting there.
Oh, shots fired. Oh, shit. Here we go.
But those men need to, all men, how's that? Is that better for you?
No, I'm good with the old. I'm feeling it now these days.
But all men need to understand what values are, how we create the belief systems that we have, and how we create the values. And what are values? Values are just extended hardcore beliefs that we have. They're the things that we base decisions on. We can believe a lot of different things, but the values are where our decisions come from. All right. And if all your decisions are about money, then everything becomes materialistic or a financial transaction.
Or conditional. More conditional, actually. Yeah.
So
I agree.
My thing is trying to get men to understand your values, understand where your values come from, understand why you have those values. Okay. Men need to understand that values come from one or two places, from the examples you were given or the lack of examples you were given.
Yep.
All right. If you're doing it from lack, then you're always trying to solve a problem without an understanding of why you have that value. All right. Money doesn't serve me. And I don't serve money.
It's a utility. It's a means to an end. You have it.
It's a tool, like he said. Yeah. It's a tool. It's not the be all to end all. It's not. I don't base every decision on money.
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said,
we don't hear this conversation on the women's side. We don't hear this at all. Us men can talk about this all day and it makes sense. But where are the women having this conversation? Money's just a tool. It's only means to an end. It's not everything. I rarely hear about this. Matter of fact, I'll pay one of you guys, each of you $100 if you could tell me any beauty salon where this conversation is being spoken of in this context. I highly doubt this because propaganda, it goes back to propaganda. I think that if we can established a culture of men incentivizing propaganda through legislation, through a national campaign. I think that this is a start through Christian virtue and Christian ethics. Politics and Christian have to be intertwined together. This has to be a thing.
Well, I think we need a culture.
Let's do this. Take faith and grace out of the equation for values. Okay. And I'm not saying let's not be Christians. What I'm saying is take those out. What are the next values that we should have? Honesty, integrity, loyalty. Those.
Yeah, but that all comes from Christian ethics, though. It's all downstream of theology.
Because we're Judeo-Christian. We come from a Judeo-Christian background.
I don't believe in Judeo-Christian, but go ahead.
No, I'm just saying,
talking about the influence from Christianity.
Abraham.
All right. I'm not going to push back too much. Go ahead.
No, but okay. Let's say we come from an Abrahamic religion, which the Ten Commandments, it comes from the Abrahamic religion. Nowhere on there in the Ten Commandments are there any things, there's no money or any of that stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's about, what does the Ten Commandments teach you? They teach you honesty. They teach you integrity. They teach
loyalty.
you loyalty. They teach you respect. Okay. They teach you
honor.
Right. Difference between right and wrong. So if we come from that understanding of what humanity is supposed to strive for, all right, and then we push that on young men and young women, all right, both, then the problem should be solved. But now let's throw relativism into the thing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, that's bad. Yeah. Relativism is a crap storm.
Yeah. And, so when we sit there and you and I can disagree on stuff, and I respect you for your opinion, doesn't mean that I have to adopt your opinion.
I agree. That's why we're having these forums right here, so we can at least come together. And matter of fact, I would like it if you kind of disagreed, because what it does is it helps me refine my argument and understanding and what I believe in. Because let's say that you tell me something and you happen to change my mind. How is that bad if it's for the better? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think these conversations are good.
But like I said, I think we live in as I said earlier, we live in a relativist society.
Yep.
And why do we do that? Because it's easy. It's easier, or we think it's easier. Because now it's, how does it affect me? It's not how does it affect them, the person beside me, the person that's or for a woman, the person that's inside her.
Mm-hmm.
The baby. It's all like, well, how does it affect me? And when my sole concern is only myself outside of a survival situation, then I'm living in survival mode all the time.
Yeah. And the best way to do that, to get a break from that, is enlightened self-interest.
Right.
Helping others ultimately helps me.
Right. And that's the problem is, like I said, we've become a society of trophies.
Yeah.
And, if we can't have all the trophies, then there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
And there's some outside force causing that. We don't take responsibility.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think
I didn't get the trophy because not that I didn't work hard enough. I just didn't get it because
winners get trophies. Yeah. I didn't get the trophy because I wasn't a winner. Like that's the end of the day.
Getting a trophy feels good because it reasserts the fact that you've had confirmed, fair, and consistent passion when it comes. Let me take the word passion out of this. Discipline when it comes to the ability to endure suffering. I think suffering can be a blessing, but people are afraid of, if I put my kids before career, I'm going to suffer. Well, here's the problem though, is that I know people personally, and maybe you guys have this anecdotal evidence too, where we have families where there's 4 kids and people are just making it by, but they're providing a good life. They're not rich, but they're happy because they have enough. Their vision of wealth is way different than everybody else's. They're not bought into materialism and this populist culture of propaganda. I think that's a very beautiful thing, because there is a little bit of gift in suffering, to be honest. We're making it, doing this. It builds character in the parents and kids as well, and builds a stable environment. You can't have a body with no immune system because you never fought a disease, because the first time you get an infection, you die. You can't develop anything to fight off anything. So that's my point.
I know a guy that was traveling a lot for work. He was a contractor. He ended up going overseas a lot. He was gone about maybe 6 to 9 months out of the year. And first 7 years of his kid's life, he barely was there. Right. But he was making buco bucks, you know. And around his son's 7th birthday, he told his wife, he's like, I'm quitting my job. He's like, I'm quitting my job. I want to be home. You know, like I'm losing out way too much on his son. Like his son's already 7. You know, like he's like, where has time gone? Like, you know, I've been gone all this time. And you know, she was freaking out about it. You know, but he said, no, this is what we're doing. And you know, he had to downscale. They did have to tighten up and get more frugal. But the richness that they were able to have was more family time, you know, like and the relationship between him and his son flourished, him and his wife flourished more. And yes, they had to sell like their Bentley, and you know, they had to sell some finer things, but they were poorer at the time with all the stuff personally, like individually, like their family was in poorer state with all the material things, but as they sold everything and they had more time together, they were richer and overall. And you know, every time I asked him, because he had a fancy car. Now he drives like a Toyota Corolla. I'm like, you regret it? He goes, not one day. Not one day. And I don't think people realize that enough to where, like, you want to be sustainable. You want to have, like, to sustain the needs that you need to provide for. And you want to have excess to save and, you know, to pass on, but not at the cost of what's important, which is the family.
Well, you bring up a really good point. There's an actor, I don't know if you guys know who he is, Daniel Craig. He played James Bond. Now, he's espoused saying that inheritance is distasteful and that he is going to focus on getting rid of money. One of the things that I see is that kids that don't understand that they need to develop an immune system for the world that is going to be constantly trying to destroy them the whole time. The first outbreak of suffering, they all of a sudden want to do this. They want to do this. You know, it's like, and then they want to just say give up because they've never fought anything in their life. They've never had any suffering. Now, I would agree with his decision to like leave property because guess what? You don't pay property taxes, you lose what? Now there's like work. We still have to work with that. But yeah. I agree with his stance on not leaving an inheritance because when you eliminate the work path of kids to have work-life experience, you literally leave them more vulnerable to be destroyed by anything out here. Now they're more susceptible because they don't build a tolerance to like stress. Men building stress tolerance level is extremely important. And we're going away from this nowadays. And we're more sensitive than ever. We're not tough. We're not resilient. And these are the men of old that we need to start bringing back.
This is where actually I would love to talk about Wraith's book on frame. Right. For those that don't know, like Wraith wrote a book. Well, he writes many books. He has like, how many books you got now, Wraith? Like 20? 11? Okay, yep. Close to 20. I'm going to pull it up here.
Well, 12 if we include the 12, 13 if we include the 2 books.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, yeah, you got to include those. Come on now. So he wrote. Now, I really like this book. Actually, I'll talk about both of them. But I was going to talk about the warrior ethos, Wraith. I really like that book that he wrote. So, how you want to tell the guys about the war ethos a little bit so they could kind of understand?
Well, can you bring up the back of the book?
No. Actually, yes, I can. Hold on. Let me see. No, because we didn't put it on on Amazon that way with the back of the book.
Well, read the.
Okay, so in a chronic world, in a chaotic world, full of noise, distractions, shifting values, some truth stands the test of time. The universal warrior ethos isn't just a book. It's a field manual for men who are ready to live with honor, discipline, courage, and resilience. Drawing from a timeless warrior codes of the samurai, the cowboy, and the Vikings. This powerful guide connects the dots across cultures, centuries to show the core of masculinity. The warrior spirit has never changed, whether you wear a uniform or not. This is for the modern man who is tired of drifting and ready to start to live with purpose. You'll explore the Stoics' calm under fire and mental clarity in chaos, the samurai's discipline and devotion to honor, both in battle and at home, the cowboy's quick grit, self-resilience, and unshakable code, and the Vikings' fearless loyalty, raw strength, and defiance in the face of fate. Written from the front lines of the military service, law enforcement, fatherhood, and martial arts, this book is part philosophy and practicality. It's not about cosplay or romanticizing the past. It's about applying ancient truths to a modern life, whether that means leading your family, facing down the personal demons, or walking through hardship with your head held high. This isn't a motivational fluff piece. It's a no BS, boots on the ground framework for becoming the kind of man your children can look up to, your wife can count on, and your brothers will follow. If you're ready to stop making excuses, reclaim your backbone, and live by a code worth dying for, this book is for you.
And that's a book of examples. I mean, I could have went into the Old Testament and pulled out, Jewish warriors, Jacob, and those kind of things. But if you take Jacob, you take the Viking warriors, cowboys, and the Stoics and stuff, you're on those core principles about what it takes to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the values and stuff that you have to develop to be a man. I wrote another book. It's called Scarcity to Sovereignty.
That one is good. Did you publish it yet?
Yeah, it's published. It's on my.
Okay, I have to check it out. Well, I got did anything change from the manual that I got?
No.
Okay. That one's good.
And the Scarcity to Sovereignty talks about how you need to grow as a man through your life, and from a teenager, from a young man in diapers all the way up through the life of being successful. I'm writing another book on frame right now.
Really?
Yeah, it won't be available till next year because I told John I would only publish it for his group right now. But nice. It talks about the 4 levels of frame, why you're here, and in the first level where your frame is everyone's frame, in the sense that you do whatever, it's relativism. You do whatever you need to do to make this person happy, that person happy, so that you feel good about yourself. And then there's the second level of frame, which is denial. Basically, you deny relativism, and then you become a super asshole. You basically deny everything. You don't agree with anyone. Therefore, you're trying to justify your place from where you're at there. And then there's the third one, which is like compromising. You know that 1 and 2 aren't right, so you try to balance those. And then eventually in level 4, you start understanding I'm my own man. I have responsibility for myself. And that I control how I feel, believe, act. You can do all that.
And you're displaying that you're not a victim you're not a victim to anything. You are choosing where you're at. Yeah, you're allowing this.
You're in that sovereign state.
Yeah.
If I can offer probably like a bit of and you don't have to take my advice or anything like that. I think I would switch denial into preservation, because I think that's really what you're talking to, is preserving something by not letting the outside constructs or anything else warp it. Because if we don't have preservation, it's not really denial, I think. But that's just my own opinion. I do have to leave, but I do want to say one last thing. I am producing a book as well too. I'll release this probably in about 3 or 4 months. Rachel Wilson and Rolla Tomasi are going to be writing the forwards to it. It's on my Google Docs. I'm probably like at least probably close to like 1,000 pages. It's called The Female Warrior Fallacy. And this is, if I wasn't in one controversy, I'm probably going to be in another scandal where I'm being attacked because all of female warrior history is a fallacy. It doesn't make sense. The Celtic warriors like Xena Warrior Princess never existed. Shield maidens never existed. So when we have these badass heroines kicking asses at 5'2", killing linebackers on screen, it doesn't exist. Where did this come from? My book debunks all this. It takes female warriors like police officers off of the front line because they get disarmed at 65% of the time. So even the gun doesn't even equalize everything with women. So if I'm going to get attacked in the past, I'm going to get attacked heavily for producing this book, but it's been real. I like talking to both of you. You guys have great content, and I'll happily be here again if I get invited, if I didn't piss anybody off.
No, Marte, did you get my message?
Which message is that?
Well, I think I texted you yesterday or the other day.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Think about that and let me know, because
let me stew on this, because if I do come out with this, I think I would be you're talking to an IAP professional. I would literally be like a foundational person when it comes to this. So yeah.
Well, so it's like Aaron Reed is also like willing like to help out with it. So like it was that's why I wanted to throw it at you.
He's good people. I know him. He's good. He's a tall, gentle giant. So I'll just say that.
He is. No,
he's
really
good guy, man.
And let me say to you, I've enjoyed this interaction. I mean, like I said, we have different ways of saying things, but we're saying the same thing. And I always appreciate another point of view from.
I used to give Ray pushback all the time.
It educates me about how I can talk to other men.
So I want to address one thing in the comments. They said they found bodies of female Viking warriors, but here's the problem with this. The female bodies of warriors that they found, they did soil samples, and I've debunked all this with the archaeological evidence. There's no fractures, no injuries. They're in perfect conditions, and they were buried with swords. Guess what? Those swords were heirlooms, royalty, and it's very few that these women were buried with them. So a lot of the women during the sidelines who were supposed to be cheerleaders, which were these shield maidens, ran to go say, "Oh my God, my husband," and got slayed in the process for trying to be dummies and go to their husband while they're getting killed. Well, they're stupid. They succumbed to their emotions and died in battle because they were just doing this and leaving the sidelines, knowing full well that they're supposed to stay on the sidelines. We had rules of engagement, and then they broke it. They weren't warriors. So all of my book debunks all this stuff. But yeah,
did you not watch Vikings? Did you not see Lagatha?
I know, man. So my book is extremely thorough. I literally go through everything else and find money paywalls to debunk everything. There's a National Geographic thing that came out with everything, but it was funded, co-opted by a private, I would say a private NGO that just doctored everything. And they're very liberal media, by the way. So my book fine-tooth combs all of history. It's crazy. But yeah. Anyways, it's been real, guys.
All right,
I'll always talk to you guys. You guys are good to talk to. Yeah.
Have a good one.
You too.
So, Race, I would say that at the end of the day, the only way we could fix these things is really just fix the individual. And if I think men have to live with the exception that I may not have children ever, because no children are guaranteed to no man.
No.
Right. But I can't be willing to sell my integrity, my morals, my values, just to have them. Because I think that's what a lot of times we see men do. They kind of cave in, placate to this, give in so they could, get access to women. And I think they don't realize how much more harm that's actually doing to them than it does. Because you can't be the good husband if you're constantly surrendering or giving into. You're not being the husband that she needs. You're being not even the husband that she wants. You're being you're being the stepping stone that
you're cosplaying.
Yeah, you're cosplaying. I mean,
yeah. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
In your experience, and you've been single off and on.
Yep. Okay.
When are you the most attractive? When you're out trying to find someone?
No.
Or when you're
when I'm focused on just doing what I need to do.
Right.
Like when I'm just tunnel vision, like, okay, I don't have time for nothing else. This is what I'm doing. that's when I think I'm probably the most attractive.
Right, and that's
you're
what
not trying, right? You're not trying.
That's what really happens. There's no,
Yeah.
you're not exhibiting any thirst, or you're not exhibiting any need for a female. What you're doing is you're focused on everything that you need to do to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And a lot of young men, when we've done away with, and this probably happened in the 50s, because that's when it seems to be the most prevalent from everything I've seen. When you take away the right to manhood, the rite of passage,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and different families did it different ways. But when you take away that rite of passage, you make vagina the rite of passage.
Yes.
You sexualize all your behaviors.
I'm glad you said that, because that is something that, like, I see really, like, more than anything. When we were growing up as kids, it was, you were a man, or you're the man because you got all these girls. You got in bed with all these girls. That was like, you're the man status, right? But it wasn't like competency, achievements other than, like you said, vagina. There was no other rite of passage. And
that happened. If you look at media, look at movies, teenage movies in the 40s. Okay, and what were the accomplishments in the 40s? Football star, baseball player,
Boy Scout stuff, like,
right.
Yep.
In the 50s, you saw that start converting. It became about,
what happened.
What happened in the 50s? We started selling young men to Disney. Hey, you need a woman to make you a better person.
Mm-hmm.
That all happened in the 50s.
So it's like almost like it went from they're teaching young men to be on their mission or their purpose. Then, like, it shifted to making the woman his purpose, getting his princess.
And what caused the transition?
Was it not the wars? Was it?
It was the war, because after the war, there were less men, more women.
Yeah.
And
also that need to procreate, the replacement rate and everything like that.
Right. And look at where we're at now. We have a lower replacement rate than we did after World War II.
Yeah, we're at the lowest that we've been in at least, like, since the 70s or something like that.
Yeah. And that just that little shift gave women power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what did we do in the late 50s, early 60s?
We did the whole sex, love, and rock and roll, like free love.
Right. And then we also, at the time, we increased our industrial revolution to include dishwashers, washing machines, things that don't take women any time.
Yeah.
Because our wives were complaining about, you don't know what my day's like. I've got this.
Yeah, we wanted them to have more time with us at the end of the day.
Right.
We're like, if they aren't doing the dishes and they could give us some loving time, we were trying to problem solve for them, but really we weren't problem solving. We actually created problem for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, and it's been that also spurred materialism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That was in the late 50s, early 60s. 70s came around, and hey, we're going to be non-materialistic, which only spurred more materialism.
Yeah.
Why did it spur more materialism? Because we needed to get out there and, as he said, propagandize non-materialism. And that became an industry in itself.
Yeah.
But like I said, we've sexualized, what the rite of passage is. And
like, if you're not a man, and really, we have not only just sexualized it, but we have set these young men up for failure by having that as the standard of rite of passage.
Well, it creates F boys and those kind of things.
Because the rite of passage before was that you were a man,
right?
Not just physically, but mentally, you
Right.
know, just emotionally. You were viewed as by other men that you're at their level. You were competent with them at their level.
Yeah, and you were trying to achieve that level of competency. You weren't in
Hmm.
competition with them.
Exactly. Now it's competition for vagina.
Right.
And you know, so it's really men that perpetuated this, though, right? It had to be them.
Well, it was a lack of, it was propaganda based on the fact that, at one time when we come back from World War II, I think it was either 3 to 4 women per man in the country. You know,
Mm.
and um, there weren't, in reality, there weren't enough men to support all the women in this country.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it got turned around. Women weren't competing for a man; men were competing for women.
see,
Because,
so this is what I think you just hit the nail on the head. What I was thinking about. So I said this the other day. I said, in the Bible it says man wasn't created from woman, but woman was created for man. Therefore, man wasn't created for women, but women was created for man.
right,
So, with that being said, why are men appealing, peacocking, performing for the thing that was created for them to gain their attention? Should be the other way around. Women were pursuing the man in the sense of wanting to make sure that the right guy, got their eye. They made their aware. It wasn't like they were like guys were their dancing monkeys back then.
well, and then if you look at nature, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Look at hummingbirds.
Yeah,
Which out of the hummingbirds, which is the prettiest of the
the
two birds,
males,
the male and female?
the males.
All through nature, all through
All through
nature,
nails is always the males. They're the most.
right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Because they display,
Hmm.
and that attracts a mate.
Yeah.
All right,
So that's why. So if you guys, I'll tell you now, but I'll tell everybody else. I created more merch just for the Sons of Thor, and actually, what I'm wearing is the first release of the merch, and it's presence over performance. Your presence draws people in, not your performance, right? If you're performing, you're trying to appeal to them. You know, your presence is supposed to be that gravity that pulls them in. You just who you are. You are who you are, and you own that. You own the space that you're in. And I think I see a lot of guys trying to perform, but they lack presence, right? And so playing it off of the Dominant Masculine Pleasant series, I was like, this is actually a good idea because, and it kind of goes into what you were saying before. Women were trying to appeal to the man, not the man appealing to the woman, chasing the woman. And I think that really is the problem today. I think by trying to chase the woman, we have inverted the roles of authority just in that beginning. If we're trying to appeal to them, hey, no, look at me, I'm a good man, you should date me. No, let me show you. I'll show you. Are trying to appeal to, they have the power from the very beginning right there. You have given it to them.
right.
It should be the other way.
And
So
then they criticize other women that are on the path of making themselves viable for men. It's
they
like,
call them
oh,
pygmies.
you want to be a pick me girl,
Yeah.
and that's a criticism of being on the right path towards successful relationships.
And I think that right there is probably really the missing link, because right now we got guys so thirsty chasing women, willing to sell their souls for these women, willing to throw away their fortunes, everything they've worked for, when really they should just stay focused on their purpose and let the women chase them.
Become the value that they, become the value for yourself. Yeah. Other people will want that.
And it's not just value as in monetary value, like acquiring resources and stuff. It's more about value of, are you a good person? You know, like, when people talk about you, do they leave? Is it a good? Does your name leave a good taste in their mouth? You know, or are you? Do you give a sour taste in their mouth? Are you regretful when they think of you as like, oh, I wish I'd never dealt with that person? You know, I think that speaks more volume, than anything. Because
Yeah,
you can
and
have all the
that's
money
why
in the world, but you could be the most shittiest person.
that's why I tell when I work with young men, I tell them, you have to find you first, and then once you understand you, then you can start dating with the intention of bringing someone into your life.
Yeah,
Okay, and if you don't go out and date with intention, you shouldn't be dating.
yeah, and you should. So I was talking to this. I'm gonna have a evolutionary psychologist or a psychologist on Tuesday. Her name is Kate Ann Michelle. She's a friend. Um, I've been talking to her behind the scenes for a couple months now, and she has a really good channel. And we're gonna be talking about why marriage is here. What is because she gets really in depth with it, and I was gonna ask her a bunch of questions about this. And one of the things that she talks about is like you know the not the guy always not like, it's just seeming like he doesn't know who he is or what he wants. He's like a chameleon. He'll adopt to whatever this woman wants, and then he'll adopt to whatever that woman wants, right? And it's like he's never in his own frame, right? And then what I've noticed even with like Christian communities, I would say like your mental point of origin, if you're a Christian, should be God, but they actually have it as their wife or what their woman would or their girlfriend would be want, not God. And that actually destroys. That doesn't mean that shows that you don't have frame.
Right. Well, and like I said, I'm rewriting. Uh, it
Because if
doesn't.
if you don't have frame, you don't know who you are. Then, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. The book I'm writing doesn't change the first book I wrote in
Uh
Thor's.
huh.
It's more detailed and why you do the behaviors. Like I said, level one, and I'll give you the names. Level one is situational frame, moment to moment control. Level two is
Okay.
contextual frame, environment and role. Level three is core frame, personal values and boundaries. Level
Okay.
four is foundational frame, identity and a worldview.
And so you're saying, do you start from the situational frame up to then you go to your values, or is it the other way around? Because I would think it's level one and then it goes down, right?
No, it talks about, it gives you a context. It gives you a reference for where you're at. Okay.
Is it like the rings, like the outer ring, the inner ring, and then like the very like smaller ring?
I did it on a pyramid. You have the
Okay.
base, and then it goes up. Core
Okay.
frame is core frame is the epitome or the apex of the pyramid.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I also, as I was going to say, I also put in there that we don't live there all the time. We don't
Yeah.
live at the epitome of frame.
Yeah.
You know, we fluctuate. We're going to make mistakes. We're going
Yeah.
to have to go back and reevaluate ourselves. You know, and the only way, if you do that, then you continually grow.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's like us in the book. From scarcity to sovereignty. It's not a book of once you're a sovereign, you're unstoppable. Because even in that book, I say, hey, you have to constantly reevaluate the decisions you make.
Yeah.
You know, why do you have to do that? Because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to misread a situation.
Yeah. You're not perfect. You
Right.
have you
If
have
you were
flaws.
perfect, you'd be Christ, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, it's I kind of started down this pathway because in my groups, guys were constantly saying, "Oh, my frame sucks. Why does your frame suck?" Well, I did this. Okay, then don't do that anymore.
Yeah. And so they
Well,
think like, oh, like one mistake and they have no frame.
right.
It's like they think, oh, if I just mess up one time, then I've lost frame. No, it's when you concede frame,
Right.
consistently, when it's always this outcome,
Right.
that's when your frame sucks.
Right. And like I said, let me get over here for a minute. Okay, so like situational frame is the moment to moment control. Okay. You perceive everything and you're constantly trying to manage agreement with everyone else so that you're viewed as being a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're trying to
Contextual.
be liked. You're trying to be liked.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Contextual frame is now you start understanding the rules of engagement, and but you develop this. I'll give you a good example. Some of your black pill guys get stuck in contextual.
Oh yeah.
Frame. It's all or none.
Yeah.
And when they get stuck there,
They can't hear anything. They just refuse to hear anything.
right? They refuse to hear anything. They refuse to do anything to change anything.
Yeah.
I can't change women, so why even mess with them?
Yeah, it's almost like, why somebody told me this. They're like, why be a good person? Why do what's right if nobody else is?
Yeah, I guess you could call it nihilistic frame. But
yeah, and I would say like, well, because I do what's right regardless of what anybody else is doing.
Right.
Because it's the right thing to do, and I'm not going to let someone else dictate my core, like,
right.
And
that's when you're at that core frame. You're basically, you can understand other people's reasons for the things they do, or like I told you, accept them where they're at.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to agree with them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to associate with them, but you can accept them where they're at.
Yeah. And it's like, and so you don't have this anger or resentment for it either, because by accepting where they're at, you understand why they're there.
Right.
And you understand also why you're not there.
Right.
And so it's not like, well, they should be where you are at. You're not, it's not like you're not mad about it. It's that you just understand that they're there for that reason and understand why they're there. And you're not judging them for it. Yeah.
And maybe you can reach out and help them.
You could encourage them. You could try to show them. And actually, that would actually provide compassion.
Right.
That gives you the opportunity for compassion.
And that was one of the things in the Cowboy Way, or the book that you were talking, the Warrior Way.
The Warrior Ethos.
The Warrior Ethos was that Stoicism isn't about not having feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's about managing the effect of those feelings.
Yeah.
I
think that was something that people don't realize when they talk about Stoicism. And I like the way that you explained it, like how it's not about not feeling anything or being numb. It's about feeling everything basically, but knowing when and how to respond to them.
Right.
That's what I got out of that.
So, I mean, there's a lot of, and successful people they have good core values, and they exhibit those values because they live those values. So,
yeah. So, I mean, to put a bow on this, I would say ultimately what we're saying in essence for these guys that are talking about concern about being married, or there's no marriageable women, or whatever the case is, they're afraid about divorce or this and the other. Make sure that before you're worrying about something that you may not be at the level in a position for you to worry about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're worried about what's going to happen on level 10, but you're still on level 1. You have level 1 problems that you need to worry about and address. You can't not deal with level 10 problems until you get there. You should be focused about what's in front of you. And if you are focused about what's in front of you, then you're not going to be distracted or consumed by the things that are around you.
Right. And that's one of the problems with the me society, or the me persona, is it's always, how is it affecting me?
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's not affecting you.
What up, Huds?
You know, and you just need to look at it from a standpoint of, you know, if it has no effect on me,
It's not
can
my
I?
problem.
Right, it's not my problem. But you know, then you can look out and say, well, can I reach out and help that person?
Yeah.
You know, and if that's a choice you have to make, you either do or you don't. You
Yeah.
know, and I always reach out the first time, but if the person says, no, you're wrong, okay, I'm always around if you need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, but like I say, it's just, and I think when to get all the way, because I guess we're coming up to an end, to get to the thing about the robo mom and robo wife and stuff is, you know, you're never going to be successful in relationships if a person or a machine, I should say, is your solution
Yeah.
to solving intimacy,
Yeah.
because you're going to expect that same outcome from every person, and it's not going to be there.
You're going to condition yourself. You're going to be training yourself to by interacting with this robot that you're always going to get what you want, and you're going to expect that from
Every interaction,
every interaction that you have with people.
right?
And you're setting yourself up ultimately for failure, because now
Well,
you're not going to be able to be well adapted socially or even just with other individuals. It could affect, actually they could affect your work life if you think about it, and everything else if you end up adopting that mentality.
you're gonna condition yourself to an expectation that's unrealistic, and when you do that, what do you create? You create
Covert
frustration.
contracts,
You create frustration for yourself, and what does frustration create? It creates
resentment.
anxiety, anger, and violence,
Yep. And resentment.
and resentment.
And it's all because of the covert contract that you end up establishing
With the machine,
with the machine.
who could care
Yeah.
less about your covert contract.
Yeah.
It's only reacting the way you want it to. You programmed it to react.
And like for the social aspect of it, like, it says, well, what about women? Well, you can't worry about women because you have no control over them. Now, the
Right.
only way that you could actually influence or, persuade women is by having your principles, having those foundational, convictions, and not giving, not bend them,
Right.
not like discard them for women. Having the ability to not be manipulated by women's sexual charms.
Right. And understand something, that if you are successful at living your values and your beliefs, and you're successful in all aspects of your life, you're going to be successful with women.
Yeah.
Now, will she be a 10 plus? No, probably not.
But she might be just what you need.
Just
She might
what you
be just what you perfect for you.
right. And like I said, don't let beauty be the driving factor of your decision making.
It definitely has to be there, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
Because we all know beauty fades. But that doesn't mean you have to get with the busted, ugly, dumpster rhino.
No, but I mean, and that's what I say. You need to know what you want so that you can date with intention.
So this guy told me, this one psychologist told me, he has guys, and let me ask you this, because I think you might do an exercise like this for guys. He has them to write out the qualities, right? Characteristics or traits that they want in a woman, like 50 of them. And then he'll go, all right, I want you to get rid of half. Give me 25, X out 25 of these that you could live without. So he's down to 25. Then he goes, I want to see your top 10. Right. And then they get rid of 15 more. And then he goes, what are your must-haves, your 5 must-haves? And then he breaks down to that. He goes, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's the same exercise I do with values.
Oh,
I give,
so I think
yeah, I
it's
give
like
them a
that's
list.
when he told me that. That's why I thought I was like, I swear I've heard this before, but I didn't hear it. I heard it from you, but in values.
Yeah, I do the same thing with values. I give them a list of 75 values that they can choose from, or
Mm-hmm.
they can add if they have a value that's not on the list. And I tell them to give me, their top 30 values. And like I said, when we get down to the bottom three, those are the ones that drive your decision making.
Yeah.
And and like I said, if money is one of the top three in your decision making, you're never going to be successful with that.
Yeah, because you're always coming from this scarcity mindset that
Right.
it's never going to be enough. It's you never. It's just like this like bottomless pit. You're never going to fill it.
Right. Because you're coming from loss or
Yeah.
need.
Well, you're not coming from abundance,
Right.
you know, and
And I don't like to say you need an abundance mindset, because what does that really mean?
yeah,
I like to say that you need a mindset where you can be satisfied,
content.
content.
I
Yes.
like the word content because it's like you're content. You're happy. Not saying you're happy, but you know what? You're good.
And that's like he was saying, there's a guy in the group, I can't remember what his name was, but he was saying that he's Indian,
Mm-hmm.
uh, East Indian, and that he can't get an East Indian woman to look at him because he only makes 20,000 a year.
Mm.
All right. Well, and she wants East Indian women want the BMW, 60,000 a year, that kind of stuff. But are they happy, and is that going to make you happy?
Yeah.
My driving factors in my life have always been my happiness, the happiness of my family, and my relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And if you're if you have those things, then you're pretty successful.
Yeah. And the one thing I try to lean on is like my definition of like a high value man, right? In the sense, and it has nothing to do with what everybody else says. I look at like what was a high value man across, like what are the characteristics of a high value man across the board, right? And it was nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with money. It was charisma, influence, and generosity, right? And you can see that Jesus, Paul, like the disciples, you can't say that they're not high value men. I mean, you
Right.
know, um, any of the like Martin Luther, during the Martin Luther King, like I have a dream, that speech, all these people that stood up for something, they were generous, they were sacrificial, they had charisma, right? And they had the ability to influence, right? That was high value. And that also led to them having power because influence is power,
Right.
you know? And by I think those traits are great traits. Like I try to like constantly remind myself like it's what you want to lean on. Because then you're regardless of what other people say to you, you don't have to fall into that, like for example, like Marte, the guy that was just here earlier this past week, some of his stuff from his past came out. And he was he's a bodybuilder, so he ended up posing for some adult stuff. And him being an Orthodox or going through the Orthodox Christian catechism right now, ended up getting a lot of flack. And then a lot of so-called Christians were calling him gay, slandering him, just saying that him and Andrew Wilson are gay together. Just like really, it's like just the worst things to say to a guy, something negatively sexually. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, these guys are calling themselves Christians. And I just could not sit by idly and just being quiet without addressing this behavior that I thought was unbecoming. Right. And that was the principle. It was a principle to me. Like I couldn't just sit by and watch it go down because I know what it does to the guy, you know, or any guy being attacked like this. And I think that what I realized was like there has been times before where I have been silent on things and I should not have been silent. And I didn't like it. And it just kind of like bubbled up and it just like that conviction. And I think that we need to embrace the conviction again. And I think that will actually help in relationships as well. Because I don't think we have given up convictions easily in society to kind of be quiet, keep the peace, you know, to not cause problems, right? But standing on convictions, it may ruffle feathers, but actually standing on your convictions does keep peace. And that could be applied to, and I'm telling you with relationships, if you sacrifice your convictions in what you want in a woman or a mate, like for whether it's beauty, which fades away, whether it's you know, accolades, nobody cares about them and nobody remembers them later on. You know, all your accomplishments, nobody's going to remember in 100 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years. So why would you sacrifice these things that are your convictions?
Well, I mean, you use the word conviction. I'm going to say standard. Okay.
Yeah.
Conviction is a process of choosing a standard. Okay. Whether it's in conviction with your religion, like God's convicted me not to smoke. Okay. Yeah. Then you're saying God has set the standard for you to be smoke free.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have the integrity to act out that standard? Okay. And like I said, conviction is an adverb. It's not a noun.
Yeah.
Conviction is the act of choice or the act of choosing. Okay. And it's the act of choosing what is right. Okay. And what is right becomes a standard or a value or a law, you know, a personal law or personal, you know, so if you're convicted to do something, you're convicted to maintain the standard.
Yeah.
So always look at it from the standpoint, am I setting the standard? And am I fulfilling my obligation to that?
Am I meeting the standard too?
Right.
Like, you know, that's also important because you could be setting a standard, but it could be a bad standard.
Right. And it's the same thing I say about goals and dreams. You know, a dream is a dream. And a goal is a dream realized.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And a conviction is basically a desired standard, and holding it as the standard is realizing.
Realizing that conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you know, when they talk about language and stuff, words have meanings, and those meanings have power. And you know, from a religious standpoint, I think pastors use conviction in the wrong context. God's convicting you to do this. Okay.
It's almost like guilting you.
Right. He's basically, because it's a conviction, now it's become a sin.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's not that your contract with Christ and your contract with God is your contract.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as long as you're living by the contents of the Bible, you know, and that you live your life in that contextual understanding of the Bible, the Old and New Testament, you're living the standards of Christ.
Yeah.
All right. And, you know, I don't remember anywhere in the Bible where it says, you know, don't smoke. It says your body's the temple. Treat your body like a temple. Well, they burn incense in the temple. I mean, I could
you can justify if you want to, like, you know,
I can come up with false analogies all along, you know.
I think, and you can even say like they had nothing to do with physically. You could talk about it could have been spiritually. Don't be spiritually impure, right? Don't be putting impure, you know, thoughts, you know, in your body, you know, stuff like that.
You know, so, and like I said, I mean, what was the Levitican law? The Levitican law was to, you know, protect. Most of it was to protect the body when it comes to food and stuff
Yep.
from sickness. All right. So if your body's a temple, and you know you're a New Testament Christian,
Mm-hmm.
should you follow the Levitican law? Most most religions say no, you don't have to follow Levitican law. All right. But if you follow Levitican law, you create a healthy environment inside your body,
That's true.
you know. So when and I think I just said this, I tried to do this in one of my books called Critical Thinking. We think in different ways. We drink, you know, we think figuratively, we think contextually, and rationally. And there's a comment, in order to come to a conclusion, we kind of use all three of those at the same time. So, you know, when someone's telling you God's convicting you, God's only convicting you if He's told you.
Yeah.
All right, that doesn't
Well,
make it relative.
I think the conviction, when I say conviction, is more these are something that I said I will stand on. This is what I believed in. And if my behavior or something I'm doing is not reflecting that, and is brought and I recognize that, I'm convicted to get back onto that standard.
Well, that's still using it as an adverb,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's fine because it is an adverb. It's a process of doing.
It is. Well, it's also like reminding you, hey, this is what you should be at.
Right.
You know?
And a lot of people, and conviction doesn't mean you're a convict.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're not a convict.
Yeah. And I think way too many preachers teach it that way.
You know, so this is like when somebody said like, oh, why are you reading the Old Testament, right? This is what I say to them. All scripture is God breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in the righteousness.
Right.
So that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. So I just it's just like, why not read, you know, Old Testament or Levitical law? Like, I said all of
here's
it.
the thing, even if you don't accept the one God, you know, and if you
It's
don't,
good for best practices.
it's a great manual to live your life. It
Yeah.
teaches you health. It teaches you, you know, what your values should be and those kind of things. You know,
Absolutely.
and there's
And
nothing that I haven't written that I didn't come to the conclusion from either through, you know, study of the Bible or study of psychology.
Yep. You know, it's funny because I told like I've had atheists tell me, like people that are you know, people that are not even Christian that practice like other like faiths, like my buddy Bjorn, big like Norse religious, you know, person. And he believes in like, you know, like Thor and Odin and stuff like that. But he'll tell you like America is better when it's a Christian nation.
Yeah.
You know, when it's practicing the Bible, when it's following the Bible. I mean, you could look at it as best practices, you know. You don't have to believe in the spirituality of it, but if you look at it as like a manual of how to before was it Bible before I leave is it before I BIBLE before I something there's like an acronym, but basically it was like before I leave the earth or something like that. Instructions before I leave the earth, or basic instructions before leaving earth. There it is.
Right.
You know, BIBLE. And it's kind of funny because it's like, well, it's kind of good for you. You know, like you look at it that way. It's just basic instructions for life.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not a. I mean, you know, I'm a religious person, but I don't sit on here and beat people up for not being religious.
I don't even do that either. I like to utilize it to show like how we could, like Pastor Mike Foster said this to me once. He goes, the red pill tells you what is the problem. The Bible tells you what to do about the problem.
Right.
And I'm like, that's the perfect way to bridge it. So I constantly try to bridge the two together. Like, hey, here's our problems. Here's our solutions. You know, like this is how the two could coincide each other and not be contradictory.
Yeah. And like I said, I think from a standpoint of, you know, you've got to find guidance somewhere. If you can't find guidance in your parents, or your parents didn't offer that guidance, you've got to find guidance in somewhere. If not, they're just repeating the mistakes that they made.
Oh yeah.
And so many young men are out there repeating the mistakes that they made. Their parents, of the examples that they were given, and
constantly, we're like, I see it, like, even with my younger cousins, like, they're doing stuff that their parents did, that their parents said, like, hey, don't do this, and they're doing just that. I did the same thing, when I look back at things, I'm like, damn, I tried not to be like that or go down that road, but here I am doing the same thing.
Well, but you have to become awakened.
And then once you're made aware of it too, that's the thing, is like, once you're made aware of it, now so you don't have any excuse at this point, because now that you've done this thing, or you're doing this thing. Real quick before we go, you guys, right there, I'm not sure if you've seen the website yet, so
I have not. Send me a link.
I was gonna just show it, and I will send you the link, but I wanted to show you guys the website. This is the Sons of Thor. Yes, we are a nonprofit, named after my mentor and friend, RP Thor Markinson. We got our About Us page, right, telling you we're 501c3. Couple words from Thor before he passed. We go into our projects. These are the projects that we want to start working on. We want to create a men's crisis hotline. It's more like a peer space, like a pure hotline. So for guys that are struggling and that need someone to talk to, but they don't have that resource, because there's not male only crisis hotlines. They'll have them for women. They'll have them for, LGBT, for trans, but not specifically for men dealing with men stuff. At least in California, they don't. We want to do our mentorship circles. That's like, one-on-one accountability or small group accountability, where they meet up pretty regularly. And then the career readiness and networking, just kind of like taking off with Thor, started with when he made his lineman course. I want to get other blue collar courses in there. So how to get into this career field, right? If this is a career field you want to get into. The Sons of Thor, a media initiative. We want to be able to help other content creators put out good, positive content for men that would help them. And sometimes the best way of doing that is being able to, like, it's like if I paid you, Wraith, hey, Wraith, can you make me like 12 episodes or 12 videos on Frame, right? And I will pay you X amount of dollars for those 12 videos, because content creators are trying to, earn a living or supplement their living on doing that. And being able to financially support them by, paying them for making some content that would be positive, then we want to be able to do that. And then our the annual meeting is another one that we, kind of getting together, like being part of like MEN or CME, Donovan's or John's organization. This one is the Dominic Masculine Presence Training Program. So basically taking each one of the books that we have written, and holding a workshop. So they could ask the author, author could do like a small breakdown in the like a seminar. Our big one is the Transitional Housing Partnership. There's one transitional house out here that's not related to drugs in California, and these are for guys that are getting, like, maybe they're divorced or they're homeless at the time because they just been divorced. They're living out of their car, and if they had a place to stay and be able to rest their head, and then they could worry about the other things that they need to take care of. And a lot of these times, these guys are in this situation, they're not able to see their kids. They don't have a place to see their kids. Well, Matthew's house and other offers the guys to be able to stay there up to like 6 months to get themselves back on their feet, and so they can, have their visitation with their children, so they don't end up becoming alienated or going down the spiral of alcohol or drugs, because they would still have access to their children, and we want to be able to help those guys in that tough time, help them get through it. And so yeah, and there's that's our annual budget that we need to make to fulfill all these programs. We got all of our books up here so far. And let's see. And then, oh yes, I'll do this one. And then we have some new swag, some merch. Like I'm wearing right now the new presence over performance gear. So you got presence. This ain't posturing. This is presence. Presence over performance. Sons of Thor, forged by fire. Son of Thor, blood by blood, bound by blood. The iron sharpens iron. This one I thought of the warrior ethos when I designed it. Dominant mind, master the mission. And yeah, some more stuff. Got some cutoffs coming that we're gonna design. And so far we were made contact with Lenovo, like the computer software company. They're willing to donate 4 computers, 2 laptops, and 2 like towers, and a server. So that's good because that will help with the crisis hotline, because the phone lines will just be running through the computers. So that way you just wear a headset and so in January I have to take a training course. Well, everybody has to take the same course that want to be a part of, like, to operate the phone lines. And then I have to take a supervisor course because it will be our own phone line service, right? And Paul Benjamin offered to be the psychologist on like staff, like the 24-hour staff, that if there's an emergency, we could patch the call to him and he would take it. Because we had to have at least one person with a psychology degree, or clinical psychology degree, to be able to assist if there's like somebody's like suicidal and it's beyond just talking to them, you can't calm them down and they need someone immediate intervention, so they would have to have a psychologist on the line. So it's really cool because we're getting like some of the guys from our space together, kind of collaborating under the Thor's banner, which he's always wanted. With the books, he wanted everybody to kind of collaborate under his banner, and so we're still kind of being able to do that. So it's been interesting. It's been rough, but it's been interesting.
Yeah. As I've always told you, I'm here if you ever need me.
Oh, I know. I was been waiting, letting you unpack. I was like, I can't just bombard you, that man. I was like, last time I called him, he was on the side of the road.
Yeah, we made it here. We've got the house. I spent this week rebuilding the boiler system for the heat and stuff like that. So. Oh,
nice. Is it you getting ready for the winter?
Trying to. It's already 40 degrees here. So.
Ugh. Oh man. That's too cold. You said 40 degrees? Like during the day it's 40 degrees?
Let's see, what is it right now? It was 46 when I got up this morning. And it's supposed to be 30 tonight.
It's like only 70 degrees out night over here.
It's 56 here right now.
Yeah, no, I'll pass.
It feels good to me, man.
Are you still just doing your meetings with your guys?
I'm working with John too.
Is he settled? Is he settled in?
He is. A matter of fact, I think I'm speaking this Monday night on his.
On his live?
Yeah. Well, no, on his group.
Oh, okay. His private group? 'Cause I know
Yeah,
he does. I think he does. Doesn't he do a show on Monday, or is that just?
he does a show, but he does a group too.
Okay.
So
Very nice.
I'm doing the group. We're talking about frame.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to go through, like I said, the book that I've written right now. I've
Mhm.
written a book. It's in PDF format, and it's just for the first year. It's just for his group.
That's good. That's good.
And
I still have to get to your book. I mean, I've already read it, but so like what I did for, I'm going for each of the P's. I'm trying to do like a short like modules, like 8 modules per like topic. So like I did problem solving already, and it's just like 7 or 8 little modules, like 5 to 10 minutes, kind of doing like a breakdown, how to apply it like in different situations. Like I go like problem solving, the difference between problem solving between men and women. I go into that, like what, acknowledging that there is a difference, um like talking about how men are very linear with their problem solving, women are more relational with their problem solving. They want to be validated before you actually solve the problem. Men just want the problem solved, um and kind of go into that. And then so I got to do the same thing with um with power, because that will be part of the frame. And so I have quite a few more to do, but those have been pretty fun. um but yeah, they just take some time.
yeah, and like I said, I haven't done much over the month, but I did sit down um, and write that book,
Yeah.
and because I told him I would. So sometimes I have to make a commitment before I get a chance to do it. I
Yeah.
sit, I sit for like 3 days straight writing, and I spent another 4 days editing.
Mm.
I've still got to put it in PDF format. I got to do that by Monday. If I'll send it to you, just don't let
Oh
it.
yeah, I won't share it. I'll read it but not share it.
Yep.
I have to, in a little bit, I'm gonna have to go meet up with Thor's friend Dennis. We're gonna be talking about how we're gonna disperse his ashes, and it's just rough,
Yeah.
again. But
Well, hey, let's get off here and talk for a minute.
yep. Oh, real quick, you guys, stay tuned for. Let me show you guys this. Tuesday, I will have Kate and Michelle. She is her channel is Kate Does Psych, I think it is, or Kate and Michelle is her channel, and she does psych. She has been dropping a lot of great content when it comes to it's just topics that we have discussed here. You guys have seen me review her videos before, and I think it'll be a great conversation. Um, she's really about really just overall helping men and women together, understanding why we are where we're at. Really sound and bass stuff. Here's a little clip from one of her recent shorts. And so you guys may want to come check it out. It's going to be a live at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern time. So yeah, make sure you guys come in, get your questions asked if you have any. And yeah, check this
I
out.
think the most difficult thing from a personal responsibility perspective is to make sure you're paying attention to what it is you're paying attention to. A lot of men, and this is not a slight at men whatsoever, but a lot of them fall in love with the idea of what a woman could be, and they do not look at reality as it is. So it's easy to be misled. Women are fickle creatures. I think that they're quite chameleon-esque in their way. And again, that's a strength they have, but it's also something that can be very harmful in the domain of relationships. When you have an honorable man, a good man, right, one with strong values, convictions, a provisional nature, they can be easily misled by the wrong woman. And the absolutely be debilitating to a man. And so not falling into the temptations of your lust, not projecting your desire for femininity onto a woman that does not have the capacity to give you those things. And you think that if you give her more, you sacrifice more, you provide more for her, that eventually she will become the version of her that you want her to be. And so this comes down to, what is in it for you? You get to have what you want. I think that the difficulty I have and frustrations that I experience watching some of these things play out is that men do not have the highest standards for women, right? Women have all of these standards, all of the I want a man who, I deserve a man who, and men will settle for less than they deserve because they want attention or they miss the companionship or they're lonely. And unfortunately, if you look at the need as a void that needs to be filled as quick as possible, you're likely going to take the first person that gives you a semblance of attention, shows you some desire, right? And it might be a means to an end that does not respect or honor you. And so really going slow with these things, being intentional with how you move, maybe not showcasing all of your success or the things that you have or what you could do for them. Do not see this from a lens of she deserves or I must as a man give all of these things to her to receive admiration and commitment from her, but really meeting her with your character, with who you are, with what you have to offer that's not maybe material or what you do or what you could provide, right? Because women being hypergamous will latch onto that, even if their emotions for you are not where you would want them to be. And so I think it's being more discerning about what you entertain and what you don't, having very strong boundaries, being clear about who you are, what you want, what you're looking for, what you will and will not tolerate from the very beginning. And I know a lot of people are afraid to do that because they fear rejection. They fear losing the thing that they have in front of them because, again, they're attention starved or they've been neglected or overlooked for a long period of time. But you have to recognize that it is much better to be alone than to be in bad company. And that's a level of self-respect that you have to have because there are women who make relationships way better. They amplify, right? Women are not somebody who's going to build something for you. They are going to, if they are naturally inclined to their own feminine nature, they're going to multiply the fruits of what you give them. They're going to nurture the things that you give them. They're going to be supportive in your pursuit of achieving or provisional nature within you. They are going to be a rock. They are going to be the support that you need on a hard day. If you have a woman who does not value those things, you cannot force her to value something that she doesn't. I think the most
So that's Kate, and I think it'll be a good conversation. So join us on Tuesday. We'll dive into a lot of questions. And until next time, you guys, love, peace, greasy chicken, um, go touch grass, and stop being mean to women.